I relocated here in June 2020, but I commuted from the Thumb for 4 years. I began working in Midland in June 2016 as the communications coordinator for the city of Midland. When things changed, I had two choices. Either I could return to my hometown of Indiana and start over, or I could go to Midland, where I already had a strong network and a strong sense of community. I moved here after taking into account all Midland had provided me over the previous 4 years. It's interesting to note that I'm Canadian even though I was raised in Indiana. When I was 7 years old, my mother, brother, and I went to the United States. The remainder of my family stayed in Canada, where they still reside. We relocated to Indiana to be with my stepdad after my mom got married again. It could be lonely to grow up so distant from my extended family, but it also made me more independent. Whether it was my stepfamily, my school pals, or the bonds I formed throughout my life, family became something I created for myself. Blood ties were never the only factor involved. I had done something similar as a child and formed ties that made Midland feel like home, so moving here wasn't a daunting prospect. Even though it's only my daughter and I here right now, I would describe my family as big and caring, with many friends and coworkers who are like family. I attended Butler University in Indianapolis after growing up in Kokomo, Indiana, which is around an hour north of Indianapolis. I began by majoring in biology with the goal of becoming a veterinarian. I had taken every science course available, worked in veterinary clinics, and even attended science competitions, but by the end of my first year, I had come to the conclusion that I detested science. Since I've always been artistic and have a love for writing and design, I moved to marketing and haven't turned back. I worked in corporate marketing for a few years after college, mostly for smaller businesses. In addition to working in commercial audiovisual and transportation and logistics, my most recent private marketing position was with an online order fulfillment business. I now have a solid basis in digital communication, marketing, and sales thanks to that experience. In 2014, a position as a marketing and communications manager became available through our local economic development partnership. Since the position had never been filled before, it seemed like an opportunity to go back to my hometown and implement the reforms I had always wished to see as a child. That was how I first encountered the public sector. When I originally arrived in Michigan, I worked in that capacity for 2 years, then briefly returned to the private sector in Saginaw. I knew I had to accept the job offer from the city of Midland when it became available. Serving the public and contributing to constructive community development are my passions. It was difficult when I initially moved to Midland. In addition to the epidemic, I was working long hours and managing crisis communications while trying to raise a 3-year-old without daycare due to the dam failure. In addition, a 7-year relationship that I believed would endure forever was coming to an end. As a mother and public servant, I have always been motivated by a sense of service and compassion, even though it was a very sad time for me. Knowing that so many others had it worse made it almost therapeutic for me to immerse myself in my work during those trying times. There were folks in Midland who had lost everything, while I was coping with heartache and fatigue. I discovered my own resilience after witnessing theirs. I could get through it if they could. I persevered because I was there for them, listening to them and supporting them during the difficulty. I'm a person who shows my emotions through my actions. I place a high value on human connection and transparency, which are not typically associated with government organizations. I want our communications to reflect Midland's vibrant personality, affection, and connections. The city had previously communicated in a plain, professional, and maybe overly formal manner. That type of communication, in my opinion, doesn't necessarily promote trust. My child attends the same schools as me, and I live in the same neighborhood. Since we are all pursuing the same objectives for our community and ourselves, why should we act as though we don't know one another? I'm motivated to relate to people more empathetically, particularly on social media. The city cannot make Midland a livable and inclusive city on its own. We all have a part to play. Yes, we provide things that many other communities don't, maintain parks, offer accessible amenities, and keep taxes reasonable while still fulfilling the requirements of the community. In addition, our employees reside here. Despite having the option to work elsewhere, they decide to remain in Midland because they have faith in it. Midland will become a community of choice if we can make people feel connected, safe, and welcome. It's not just my profession that makes me truly adore Midland. It's different, which is why I adore it. We still feel like a tiny town despite having a lot of facilities, events, and activities. Despite being a small community with a population of 42,000, we have attractions like the Santa House, Dow Gardens, and the Center for the Arts that you would expect to see in much larger cities. We have more than communities 3 times our size. You can live in a close-knit, secure neighborhood without compromising access to anything you want to do, which is, in my opinion, one of Midland's main attractions. Giving people the opportunity to connect via play was my motivation for introducing Adult Recess to downtown Midland in 2018. The program began with basic activities but has since expanded every year, particularly with the addition of the pedestrian plaza. To make the weekly event more vibrant, the city recycles things like huge board games and hula hoops that we bought for earlier events. Adult Recess had its best season last year, and it's wonderful to see how the community has embraced it. Midland's downtown has changed. Numerous studies have demonstrated the importance of belonging and feeling well for both physical and mental health, and it also plays a significant role in people's housing decisions. The quality of life we provide in Midland, things like the pedestrian plaza, the commons, tunes by the Tridge, and other community events, gives individuals a reason to pick us, even though more people are working remotely and can live elsewhere. Because we both love to read, my daughter and I frequently visit the Grace A. Dow Memorial Library and take walks around. It would be great to see Midland's walkability continue to improve. We also enjoy spending time downtown and attending Loons games. I purposely purchased my Midtown house so that we could stroll to all the wonderful attractions. My greatest want for Midland going forward is that we continue to build on the momentum of developing a vibrant, inclusive community where everyone is welcomed and feels like they belong. I think we're headed in the right direction, but there's still work to be done. I am aware of how crucial it is for people to feel heard and accepted since I have experienced what it's like to relocate and make new friends. That's what we're doing in Midland.